Dr. June Kim checked his bag one more time. Medical scanner, pocket translator, personal items, and his lucky pen. He was ready. Today was his first day as the human doctor on the new Earth Navy space station. He looked out the small window of the shuttle. The space station hung in space near Saturn. It looked like two giant rings connected in the middle. One ring was built for humans. The other was for the Na'vi. "Dr. Kim, we are ready to dock," said the pilot. "Please make sure your safety belt is secure." June nodded and tightened his belt. The shuttle slowed as it approached the human side of the station. With a soft bump and hiss, they connected to the airlock. "Welcome to Unity Station," said a voice over the speaker. "Please wait for pressure to equalize before exiting." June felt his ears pop as the air pressure changed. Then the doors slid open. A tall man in a blue uniform stood waiting. "Dr. Kim, welcome aboard. I'm Captain Lee, station commander for the human section." The captain shook June's hand firmly. "We're very glad to have you. You're the first xenobiologist to be stationed here permanently." "Thank you, Captain. I'm excited to be here," said June. He picked up his bag and followed Captain Lee down the curved hallway. "The Na'vi are very interested in meeting you," said Captain Lee as they walked. "They've never had much contact with human doctors before. They're sending one of their scientists to work with you. She'll arrive in about an hour." June nodded. He had studied the Na'vi for years, but had never met one in person. They looked almost human, except for their blue-tinted skin and smaller size. The average Na'vi was only about 5 feet tall. They had evolved on a planet with lower gravity than Earth. "Here's the medical lab," said Captain Lee, stopping at a door marked with a red cross. "It's equipped for both human and Na'vi patients." The door slid open. June stepped inside and looked around. The lab was bigger than he expected. It had examination tables sized for both species. The walls were lined with medical equipment. Some he recognized, some he didn't. "That section is Navy medical technology," explained Captain Lee, pointing to the unfamiliar equipment. "And this," he walked to a large machine in the corner, "is our newest human medical device. It's a tissue regeneration stimulator. It can help heal injuries much faster than normal." June walked over to examine the machine. It looked like a large metal arch with a bed underneath. The control panel had hundreds of tiny buttons and switches. "It's still experimental," continued Captain Lee. "You're one of the few doctors trained to use it. The Na'vi are very interested in this technology." After showing June around the rest of the medical lab, Captain Lee took him to his quarters. The room was small but comfortable, with a bed, desk, and small bathroom. "Rest for a bit," said Captain Lee. "The Na'vi scientist will meet you in the medical lab in 1 hour." Left alone, June sat on the bed and took a deep breath. After years of studying alien biology, he was finally going to work with the Na'vi in person. He felt excited and nervous at the same time. Exactly 1 hour later, June was in the medical lab, organizing his equipment. The door slid open with a soft hiss. June turned around. A small figure stood in the doorway. She was just under 5 feet tall, with delicate features and blue-tinted skin. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a silver jumpsuit with the Na'vi Science Division symbol on the shoulder. "Hello, Dr. Kim," she said in perfect English. "I am Mina, xenobiologist from the Na'vi science team." She bowed slightly. "Hello, Mina," said June, bowing in return. "Please, call me June." Mina smiled and stepped into the lab. Her movements were light and graceful, adapted to her home planet's lower gravity. "I have studied human medicine for 3 years," she said, looking around the lab with interest. "But I have many questions about human biology." "I have studied Na'vi biology as well," said June. "Perhaps we can learn from each other." Mina nodded, then her eyes fell on the regeneration machine in the corner. "Is that the tissue stimulator I've heard about?" she asked, moving toward it. "Yes, it helps heal injuries by stimulating cell growth," explained June. "It's still experimental, but the results have been promising." Mina examined the machine with obvious fascination. "The Na'vi have nothing like this," she said. "Our medical technology focuses more on prevention than repair." June noticed that Mina had a much flatter chest than human women. This was normal for Na'vi females. They had evolved differently and didn't have prominent mammary glands like humans. Mina noticed him looking and smiled. "I know there are many physical differences between our species," she said. "Humans seem very interested in the chest area differences." June felt his face grow warm. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to stare. It's fine," said Mina. "I'm a scientist too. I understand curiosity. Na'vi females don't need the fat storage there that human females do. Our babies get nutrition differently." Before June could respond, a loud alarm began to sound throughout the station. "Attention all personnel," said a voice over the speakers. "We are experiencing gravity system fluctuations. Please secure all equipment and prepare for gravity changes." June felt suddenly lighter, then heavier, then lighter again. The gravity was switching between Earth Standard and Navy Standard gravity. "We need to secure the equipment," he said to Mina. He tried to walk to the medicine cabinet, but the changing gravity made it difficult. He pushed off too hard and floated across the room. Mina was having trouble too. She wasn't used to Earth gravity, and when it switched to the heavier setting, she stumbled. "Look out!" called June as Mina fell against the regeneration machine. Her hand hit the control panel. The machine lit up with a blue glow. "I'm sorry," said Mina, pushing away from the machine. "Did I damage it?" June checked the control panel. "I don't think so," he said. "Let me just turn it off to be safe." The gravity shifted again, and June had to grab the edge of the machine to stay in place. He pressed several buttons, and the blue glow faded. "All personnel, please remain where you are," said the voice over the speakers. "Engineering is working to stabilize the gravity systems." For the next 20 minutes, June and Mina held onto the examination tables as the gravity continued to fluctuate. Finally, the gravity stabilized at a compromise between Earth and Na'vi Standard. "Gravity systems have been stabilized," announced the voice. "We apologize for the inconvenience. There will be a full report at 800 hours tomorrow." Mina let out a sigh of relief. "That was unpleasant," she said. She looked tired, and June noticed a slight blue glow on her skin where she had touched the regeneration machine. "Are you feeling all right?" he asked, concerned. "Yes, just a little dizzy," she said. "It's probably from the gravity changes." "Maybe we should continue our work tomorrow," suggested June. "It's been a long day for both of us." Mina nodded. "That's a good idea. I need to rest. Shall we meet here tomorrow morning?" "Yes, 900 hours," agreed June. "I'll check the equipment to make sure nothing was damaged during the gravity fluctuations." Mina bowed slightly. "Good night, June," she said, then turned and left the lab. After she was gone, June examined the regeneration machine more closely. It seemed to be functioning normally, but when he checked the logs, he saw that it had activated briefly when Mina fell against it. It had sent out a pulse of energy, but he couldn't tell what settings had been active. June frowned. The machine was designed for humans, not Na'vi. He didn't know what effect it might have on Mina's biology, but she seemed fine, and the exposure had been brief. He decided to monitor her closely tomorrow for any signs of problems. Little did he know that the brief activation of the regeneration machine would lead to changes that would affect both their lives and the future of human-Na'vi relations in ways no one could have predicted. Mina woke up feeling strange. Her chest felt heavy and tight. Maybe she was sick from the gravity changes yesterday. She sat up in bed and looked down at herself. Then she gasped. Her normally flat chest now had 2 round bumps pushing against her sleeping clothes. They looked like human female breasts. Mina touched them carefully. They were real. She jumped out of bed and ran to the mirror. "This can't be happening," she whispered to herself. Her face looked the same, with its light blue skin, but her body had changed. Her chest was now shaped like a human woman's. Mina's face turned a deeper blue. This was the Navi way of blushing. She didn't know what to do. In Navi culture, looking like other species was considered very rude. It suggested you were trying to copy them instead of being proud of your own people. She needed help, but who could she ask? After thinking for a minute, she called Dr. Kim on her communication device. June, this is Mina. I have a medical problem. Can I come see you right away? In private. 10 minutes later, Mina arrived at the medical lab. She wore a large jacket to hide her new shape. June was waiting for her, looking worried. What's wrong, Mina? He asked as the door closed behind her. Mina's face turned deep blue again. She couldn't find the words to explain. Instead, she opened her jacket to show him the changes. June's eyes widened in surprise. Oh, he said. Then he quickly looked away. I see. Can you fix this? Mina asked desperately. I can't let anyone see me like this. It would shame my whole family. June thought for a moment. I think this happened when you hit the regeneration machine yesterday, he said. It must have affected your DNA somehow. Maybe it activated dormant genes that matched human patterns. He walked to a scanner and motioned for Mina to stand in front of it. Let me check what's happening in your body, he said. The scanner hummed as it moved up and down. June looked at the results on a screen. Your body is producing new hormones, he said. They're similar to human female hormones. That's what's causing the physical changes. Can you stop it? Asked Mina. Can you make me normal again? I think so, said June. But I need time to study this. The regeneration machine is very complex. I don't want to make things worse by rushing. Mina looked down at her new chest and frowned. How long will it take? A few days, maybe a week, said June. I need to understand exactly what happened first. Mina's shoulders dropped. A week? What will I do until then? I can't let anyone see me like this. We can find you some different clothes, suggested June. Something loose that hides the changes. Just then, the door to the medical lab slid open. Captain Lee walked in with a tall, blue-skinned Navi in an official uniform. Dr. Kim, I wanted to introduce you to Leader Tai of the Navi delegation, said Captain Lee. Then he noticed Mina and her frightened expression. Oh, I see you've already met Mina. Mina quickly pulled her jacket closed, but Leader Tai had already seen. His face turned dark blue with shock. Mina, what have you done to yourself? He asked in the Navi language. It was an accident. Mina replied in the same language. During the gravity malfunction yesterday, Leader Tai turned to June. Did you do this to her? He demanded in English. Did you change her to look more human? No, sir, said June quickly. It was an accident with the regeneration machine. I'm working on a way to reverse it. Leader Tai looked at Mina with disappointment. You must not appear in public until this is fixed, he said. It would embarrass our entire delegation. Imitating other species' physical features is against our cultural values. Mina's face was now so blue it was almost purple. She nodded without speaking. I expect you to fix this immediately, Doctor, Leader Tai said to June. Then he turned and left the room. Captain Lee looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry about this, he said. I didn't realize. Is there anything I can do to help? We need some clothing that will help Mina hide these changes until I can fix them, said June. I'll have some items sent to her quarters, promised Captain Lee. And I'll make sure this doesn't become general knowledge. After Captain Lee left, Mina sat down on an examination table, her head in her hands. This is horrible, she said. Leader Todd will report this to my family. They'll be so ashamed. It's not your fault, said June. It was an accident. It doesn't matter, said Mina. In my culture, having features like humans is seen as rejecting your own people. It's like saying you think humans are better than Navi. June didn't know what to say. In human culture, Body modifications were common and accepted, but he understood that cultures had different values. "I promise I'll fix this as quickly as possible," he said. Over the next few days, Mina tried to avoid being seen. She wore loose clothing that Captain Lee had provided, but rumors still spread through the station. Everyone seemed to know that something strange had happened to the Na'vi scientist. The human crew members tried to act normal when they saw her, but Mina could tell they were curious. Some of the men even seemed to stare at her chest before catching themselves. Each time this happened, Mina's face would turn deep blue with embarrassment. The Na'vi delegation was worse. They avoided her completely. When she entered a room, they would find reasons to leave. Only June treated her normally. Mina spent most of her time in the medical lab, helping June search for a solution. He was studying the regeneration machine's logs and running tests on samples of Mina's blood. "The machine activated a set of dormant genes in your DNA," June explained as they worked. "All species have unused genetic code. The machine somehow identified human-like patterns in your DNA and activated them." "Why would Na'vi have human-like genes?" asked Mina. "Our species might be more related than we thought," suggested June. "Or maybe it's just a coincidence of evolution. Either way, the changes are at the cellular level." Mina noticed that she was experiencing other changes too. Her emotions seemed stronger. When she was embarrassed, which happened often, the feeling was intense. When she was sad, tears came to her eyes, something that rarely happened to Na'vi. One day, as they were working, Mina accidentally dropped a tray of samples. They clattered to the floor, making a loud noise. June jumped in surprise. "I'm sorry," Mina said, kneeling to pick up the samples. To her horror, she began to cry. "Hey, it's okay," said June, kneeling beside her. "Nothing broke." "I don't know what's wrong with me," said Mina, wiping her eyes. "Navy don't cry over small things. I can't control my emotions." "It's probably the hormonal changes," said June. "Human females sometimes experience emotional changes due to hormones." Mina sniffed and nodded. "I hate this. I hate how everyone looks at me. The humans stare at my chest, and the Na'vi won't even look at me at all." June helped her pick up the rest of the samples. "I think I'm getting close to a solution," he said. "I've identified the specific genes that were activated. Now I just need to figure out how to deactivate them safely." Mina looked at June with hope. "Really? How long will it take?" "A few more days," said June. "I need to program the machine carefully. One mistake could make things worse." Mina nodded, trying to be patient. But inside, she felt like she couldn't take much more of the stares and whispers. She just wanted to be normal again. Little did she know that her accidental transformation would soon lead to a breakthrough in understanding between humans and Na'vi. But first, she would have to face more challenges and embarrassment as her body continued to adapt to its new form. 1 week had passed since Mina's accident with the regeneration machine. June was still working on a solution. Mina sat in the medical lab, watching him study test results on his computer. "Why is it taking so long?" she asked. "I can't keep hiding like this." June looked up from his work. "The changes to your body are complex," he explained. "If I rush, I might hurt you. I need to be careful." Mina sighed. She understood, but she was tired of feeling embarrassed all the time. Her new body made everything difficult. Simple tasks like walking or reaching for things felt different, and the way people looked at her made her face turn blue constantly. "Can we talk about something else while you work?" she asked. "I need a distraction." "Sure," said June. "What would you like to talk about?" Mina thought for a moment. "Why do humans find these so important?" she asked, pointing to her chest. "In Na'vi culture, we don't understand why humans care so much about them." June's face turned red. This was the human way of blushing. "Well," he said, "in human culture, they're associated with attraction and feeding babies. But I've noticed that human males look at them even when they're not thinking about babies," said Mina. June's face got even redder. That's true, he admitted. It's complicated. It's partly biology and partly cultural. Over time, human society made them important in ways that aren't just about their actual purpose. Mina nodded. Navy have different things that are important in our culture, she said. We care a lot about the color of our skin. The bluer it is, the more attractive we're considered. That's interesting, said June. Every culture has different ideas about bodies. They continued talking as June worked. Mina told him about Navi customs and beliefs. June shared stories about human culture. For the first time since the accident, Mina felt comfortable. I think many problems between our species come from not understanding each other, she said. Humans thought Navi were being rude by not looking at them during conversations. But for us, too much eye contact is disrespectful. And Navy thought humans were aggressive because they stand so close when talking, added June. But humans see that as friendly. Mina smiled. Since getting these, she said, pointing to her chest, I understand humans better. I feel emotions differently. I notice things I didn't before. June looked at her with interest. What kind of things? I can read human faces better now, explained Mina. I can tell when someone is sad or confused, even when they don't say it, and I feel more connected to others. Is that how humans always feel? Not all humans, said June, but many, yes. The hormones affecting you probably increase empathy and emotional awareness. The door to the medical lab slid open. Captain Lee rushed in, looking worried. Dr. Kim, we have an emergency, he said. There's been an accident in the engineering section. We have both human and Navi injured. The medical team needs help right away. June stood up quickly. I'll come right away, he said. He looked at Mina. You should stay here. I know you don't want to be seen. But Mina stood up too. I'm still a scientist, she said. If people are hurt, I want to help. Captain Lee nodded. We need all the help we can get. Let's go. They hurried through the station to the engineering section. When they arrived, they found chaos. 5 engineers, 3 humans, and 2 Navi lay on the floor. Other crew members were trying to help them. What happened? Asked June, kneeling beside the closest injured person, a human engineer with a bad cut on his arm. Gas leak, explained a Navi engineer. Some kind of reaction between human and Navi equipment. It made a toxic gas. June checked the injured humans while Mina went to the Navi engineers. The medical team arrived and began treating the worst injuries. This is strange, said the head doctor, looking at readings from her scanner. The gas affected humans and Navi differently. The humans have breathing problems. The Navi have skin irritation. Mina examined the readings. Then she looked at her own arms. Her skin was normally blue, but since the accident, it had become slightly lighter, more like human skin. Now her arms were turning slightly red where she had touched the injured Navi. I think I know what's happening, she said. The gas reacts with skin pigments. That's why it affects Navi skin. And it bonds with the proteins in human lung tissue. June looked up from treating a patient. Are you sure? Mina nodded. I can feel it affecting my skin, but not as much as the other Navi. And I feel a slight tightness in my chest, but not as bad as the humans. She pointed to the scanner. Look at these readings. The gas molecules bind to both proteins. June studied the scanner. She's right, he said to the head doctor. We need different treatments for each species. But we don't have enough of either medicine, said the doctor. We didn't prepare for this kind of accident. Mina thought quickly. What if we make a combined treatment? She suggested. Since I have elements of both species now, maybe a treatment that works for me would help everyone. June looked at Mina with new respect. That might work, he said. We can use the regeneration machine to help design it. They hurried back to the medical lab. Taking blood samples from both species. Working together, They programmed the regeneration machine to create a new treatment based on Mina's unique biology. Within an hour, they had a solution. They rushed back to the engineering section and gave it to the injured crew members. Slowly, everyone began to improve. Leader Ta had come to check on the injured Navi. He watched as Mina worked with June to treat everyone. "You saved them," he said to Mina when the emergency was over. "Your condition helped you find a solution." Mina's face turned blue with embarrassment, but this time it was mixed with pride. "I could understand both species," she said. "I could feel what both were experiencing." Leader Ta looked thoughtful. "Perhaps there is value in understanding other species deeply," he said. "I will report this to the Navi Council." Later, back in the medical lab, Jun smiled at Mina. "You were amazing," he said. "No one else could have made that connection." Mina looked down at her changed body. "Maybe these changes aren't all bad," she said. "They helped me save lives today." "I'm still working on reversing the effects," said Jun. "But now I wonder if that's what you really want." Mina thought about it. Her new body had caused her embarrassment and shame, but it had also given her new understanding and abilities. "I need time to think," she said. "This experience has changed more than just my body. It's changed how I see both our species." As they cleaned up the lab, Mina caught June looking at her chest again. Her face turned deep blue. But this time, her embarrassment felt different. It was mixed with something new, something she didn't quite understand yet. What she didn't know was that her decision would affect not just her own future, but the future of human-Navi relations in ways no one could have predicted. 2 weeks after the emergency in the engineering section, Mina sat in the medical lab watching June make final adjustments to the regeneration machine. News of how her unique condition had helped save the injured crew had spread throughout the station. People looked at her differently now. There was less embarrassment and more respect in their eyes. "I think it's ready," said June, stepping back from the machine. "I can reverse the changes now. Your body should return to normal within a few days." Mina looked at the machine. For 2 weeks, all she had wanted was to be normal again, to stop blushing every time someone looked at her, to stop feeling embarrassed about her human-like features. But now she wasn't so sure. "What if I don't want to change back yet?" she asked quietly. June looked surprised. "You don't. But I thought." "I did want to change back," Mina explained. "But things are different now. My unique biology helped during the emergency. What if it could help more? What if I could be a bridge between our species?" Before June could answer, the lab door opened. Leader Ta entered, followed by Captain Lee and a group of officials, both human and Navi. "Mina," said Leader Ta formally, "the Navi Council has been discussing your situation. They have made a decision." Mina stood up straighter, preparing herself for more shame. Her face began to turn blue. "The Council has created a new position," continued Leader Ta. "Special Cultural Ambassador. Someone who understands both human and Navi biology and culture. They want you to fill this position." Mina's eyes widened in surprise. "Me? But my condition." "Your condition gives you unique insight," said Leader Ta. "What happened during the emergency proved this. You understood both species in a way no one else could." A human woman in an official uniform stepped forward. "Earth's diplomatic team agrees," she said. "We believe you could help improve understanding between our peoples. Your experience bridges both worlds." Mina felt overwhelmed. Her face was now the deepest blue it had ever been, but for once, she didn't mind the blushing. It wasn't just embarrassment she felt. It was pride and happiness too. "What about the changes to my body?" she asked. "Navy tradition says we shouldn't imitate other species." Leader Ta nodded. "That is true. But the Council has decided this is a special case. You didn't choose these changes, and they serve an important purpose now. We've developed a new cultural framework," added a Navi official. "It acknowledges that while we should respect our natural differences, sometimes understanding requires adaptation." Maina looked at June, who smiled encouragingly. "You don't have to decide right now," said Captain Lee. "Dr. Kim can reverse the changes whenever you're ready, or not at all. It's your choice." After the officials left, Maina sat quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. "What will you do?" asked June. "I think I want to stay like this for now," she said. "At least until we learn more about how my condition can help relations between our species." June nodded. "I think that's a good decision. But if you ever change your mind, the treatment will be ready." 3 months later, Maina stood in front of a group of new arrivals to the station, both human and Na'vi. As special cultural ambassador, it was her job to help them understand each other. "Welcome to Unity Station," she said. "My name is Maina. As you can see, I'm a bit different from most Na'vi." There were a few smiles and curious looks, but no one stared rudely. Word of her story had spread, and most people now knew why she looked the way she did. "My unique biology has taught me much about both our species," continued Maina. "Today, I'll share some of that knowledge with you to help you work better together." As she spoke, Maina noticed June standing at the back of the room. He was watching her with a smile. Her face turned slightly blue, but she didn't mind. That familiar blushing feeling had become a reminder of her special role. After the orientation, Maina and June walked together through the station. They had become close friends during their time working together. "The new medical research team arrives tomorrow," said June. "They want to study how the regeneration machine affected your DNA. They think it might lead to better medical treatments for both species." Maina nodded. "I'm excited to help, and I hear there are volunteers now, both human and Na'vi, who want to try small biological adaptations themselves." "Yes," said June. "Nothing as dramatic as what happened to you. Just small changes to help them understand each other better. Some humans want to experience how Na'vi sense light. Some Na'vi want to understand how humans taste food." They stopped at a window overlooking Saturn's rings. The view was beautiful, bands of icy particles glowing in the sunlight. "I never expected any of this when I came to the station," said Maina. "I thought I would do my research and go home. Instead, I've become something new." "Do you ever regret it?" asked June. "The accident with the machine?" Maina thought for a moment. "Sometimes I miss my old body," she admitted. "It was simpler, but what I've gained is worth the challenges. I understand both our peoples in a way no one else can." "And the blushing?" asked June with a small smile. "You still do that a lot?" Mina's face turned blue again. "Yes, that hasn't stopped. But I'm not embarrassed about it anymore. It's just part of who I am now." As they continued walking, they passed a group of Na'vi scientists. Instead of avoiding Maina as they once did, they greeted her with respect. One of them even complimented her on her recent paper about cross-species biology. "Things have changed," said June after they passed. "People see you differently now." "People see both our species differently," corrected Maina. "That's what matters." When they reached the medical lab, they found a message waiting for them. The Na'vi Council and Earth's diplomatic team had approved funding for a new research center. It would focus on biological and cultural exchange between the species. They wanted Maina and June to lead it. "They want us to find safe ways for others to experience what you experienced," said June, reading the message. "To create understanding through shared biology." Maina smiled. "It's a big responsibility. Are you ready for it?" asked June. Maina nodded. "Yes, this is what my accident was leading to all along. A chance to build real understanding between our peoples." As they began planning their new research center, Maina caught June looking at her chest again. Her face turned deep blue, as it always did. But now her blushing was mixed with happiness. What had once been her greatest embarrassment had become her greatest gift to both their species. June noticed her blushing and quickly looked away. "Sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to stare." Maina laughed. "It's okay," she said. "I'm used to it now. Besides, Without these coconuts, as the humans call them, none of this would have happened. June laughed too. That's true. Who would have thought that an accident with a regeneration machine would lead to the biggest breakthrough in human-Navi relations? Sometimes the most embarrassing moments lead to the most important changes, said Mina. And as she said it, she realized how true that was, not just for her, but for both their species as they learned to understand each other better.